Welcome to the Book Club Lounge, the podcast where we dive deep into books and discuss them in loving, excruciating detail. So, fair warning, spoilers will be abundant.
Yes, indeed. Needless to say, if you haven't read The Midnight Library and prefer to go in fresh, it might be best to set this episode aside for later. But if you're already curious or need a boost to get started, well, you're in the right place.
You're definitely in the right place. Hit subscribe, tap that little bell icon. You know, the one you ignored last time. Because trust me, you don't want to miss our weekly literary dissections. Oh, come on, humor me.
Well, all jesting aside, today's book is truly something to behold. The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, a novel that masterfully interweaves philosophy, alternate realities, and the immense power of choice.
And regrets. Don't forget the regrets. Oh, this book practically breathes regret. But it's also hopeful. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll root for the main character to figure it out.
Indeed. The central premise, without giving too much away just yet, revolves around Nora Seed, a woman caught between life and death, navigating her personal what could have beens in, quite a literal sense.
It's the real-life, choose-your-own adventure we all wish we had. Although, maybe not quite like this. Anyway, we're going to walk you through the story chapter by chapter and unpack every twist, every choice, every philosophical punch to the gut.
Yes, so sit back, make yourself a cuppa, or perhaps something stronger. It is a midnight library after all.
And get ready to lose yourself in Nora's journey of self-discovery, alternate lives, and, let's be honest, existential chaos. Before we dive into Nora's existential chaos, let's take a moment to shine a light on the man who brought it all to life, Matt Haig. British, prolific, and unflinchingly authentic, his work feels like a conversation we've all been craving.
Yes, Haig is rather remarkable in how deeply personal his writing feels, isn't it? Much of it draws directly from his own experiences, particularly his struggles with depression.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it shines through, not just in The Midnight Library, but in his other works too. Have you read Reasons to Stay Alive?
I have, yes. A profoundly moving piece, though not fiction. It's part memoir, part self-help, I suppose you could call it, though that doesn't quite do it justice.
Right? It's like being gently hugged, or maybe not so gently depending on where you're at emotionally, by someone who just gets it. And then there's his other fictional gems like How to Stop Time and The Humans.
I quite enjoyed How to Stop Time, actually. It's clever in its exploration of, well, the human condition. Time, choice, immortality, all themes he seems rather fond of revisiting. Don't you think?
Yeah, themes he's fond of is putting it lightly. It's like his literary playground. But he's so good at weaving in those big existential questions without making them, pretentious. Like, you feel it. You don't just observe it, you know?
Indeed. What strikes me most is how his work remains deeply empathetic. His writing reflects his understanding, an understanding born from personal hardship, of course, of struggles that feel insurmountable, but somehow aren't.
Oof, yeah, I was going to say, you really feel that in The Midnight Library? He takes all those raw emotions, the heartbreak, the self-doubt, and somehow turns it into, well, I guess you can call it a hug in book form.
A poignant description, Clara. His ability to meld pain and hope is undoubtedly one of his greatest strengths as a writer.
Totally. So that's Matt Haig, a literary alchemist of pain and hope, and honestly, someone whose books, like, everyone should pick up. Trust me, you won't regret it. So speaking of weaving pain and hope, let's dive straight into Nora Seed, the protagonist here. She's, well, honestly, a bit of a mess at first, but that's what makes her journey so compelling.
Yes, she is, isn't she? Clearly at a crossroads in life. Utterly disenchanted, filled with despair.
And heartbreak. I mean, losing her job and her cat, that's just too much. Poor Volts. You can't not feel for her.
Indeed, and it all culminates in her decision to, well, end her life. But instead of darkness, she finds herself in...
Wait for it, the Midnight Library. A magical library floating somewhere in between life and death.
Yes, exactly. And here's the fascinating bit. Each book housed in the library represents a version of Nora's life. Different choices, different outcomes.
Can we just take a moment for Mrs. Elm, though? I love that she's Nora's childhood librarian turned mystical guide. Like the perfect blend of wise and no nonsense.
She's a wonderfully understated character, isn't she? And the role she plays, guiding Nora through these alternate realities, it's just brilliantly executed.
Totally. So Nora starts diving into these different lives. What if she'd stuck with competitive swimming? Boom, Olympic athlete.
Yes, but it's not quite the dream she'd hoped, is it? Despite her achievements, that life too has its own unique challenges and dissatisfaction.
And then there's the rock star life. Oh, that one's so bittersweet. You can tell she loved it, but, well, fame has its own price, right?
Indeed, each life is tantalizing at first, but soon reveals its flaws. Even the seemingly perfect scenarios, like being married and settled, serve to dismantle her initial illusions.
Or the Arctic explorer life. Seriously, who picks Arctic research as an alternate life? But it totally works for her character. I mean, it shows the academic what could have been in such a wild setting.
Yes, and what truly stands out is how these experiences force Nora to confront her regrets and her assumptions about failure. It's a sobering realization that no life is without compromise or disappointment.
Oof, that hits hard. Like, she's learning that all these regrets she's carried around, most of them aren't even grounded in reality. It's like, we're really our own worst critics, huh?
Quite. And through this process, Nora begins to see her impact on others' lives, something she'd largely overlooked. It's such a profound turning point for her.
Yeah, I mean, that's when the Midnight Library starts to collapse, right? Because she's finding that sliver of hope again. Like, she's ready to actually live.
Precisely. The collapse symbolizes her return to the real world with a renewed sense of purpose and an appreciation for the life she has, flawed as it may be.
Ugh, it's such a beautiful ending. She wakes up, ready to rebuild everything, and you just know she's going to. Like it's this big, hopeful yes to life. After everything we just unpacked, those moments of hope, let's dig into the larger themes because the Midnight Library does not hold back, does it?
Not at all. It's absolutely brimming with ideas, philosophical and deeply personal, that resonate on multiple levels. Where shall we start?
Oh, choices and regret, obviously. Like, do you ever think about how your life might have played out if you'd taken that one other path?
All the time, actually. And that, I suppose, is what makes this book so compelling, isn't it? It explores the notion that our choices, even the seemingly inconsequential ones, shape everything about who we are.
Totally. And Nora's whole journey is like this giant metaphor for, I don't know, self-forgiveness? Realizing that regret is, kind of a waste of time?
Indeed, although it's more nuanced than simply dismissing regret. It's about reframing it, understanding how regrets shape our perspectives without letting them define us entirely.
Right. And it ties so beautifully into the mental health aspect of the book. I mean, at the start, Nora's completely consumed by this idea that her life has no purpose, and it's painful to see.
Yes, but the library provides her a space to reconsider that, doesn't it? To face her darkest thoughts head on and emerge, if not unscathed, then at least with a newfound determination.
Exactly. Like, it's so hopeful, but not in an overly saccharine way. It's this gentle nudge saying, hey, you're not as stuck as you think you are.
Hope, yes, and also perspective. The butterfly effect plays a key role here. The idea that even the smallest decisions can ripple outward, altering not just our lives, but the lives of those around us.
Oof, that hit me hard. Like, how many tiny things have I done that might have changed someone else's path without me even realizing it?
Quite. And that realization seems to creep up on Nora too, doesn't it? As she experiences these alternate lives, she begins to notice the ways she's impacted others, sometimes positively, sometimes less so.
Yeah, and it's humbling, honestly. I love how the book doesn't shy away from showing that no life is perfect. Even the dreamiest what-ifs have cracks.
Precisely. And that recognition is pivotal for Nora. It's not about erasing regret or chasing perfection. It's about finding peace in the life she already has, and the potential it holds.
Ugh, that's beautiful. And so true. It's this big takeaway that, yeah, life is messy and imperfect, but that doesn't mean it's not worth embracing. So, building on that, doesn't The Midnight Library just stay with you? It's one of those books that makes you sit back and re-examine every single choice and its countless ripple effects.
Indeed, Haig's ability to distill such profound philosophical concepts into an accessible narrative is, truthfully, remarkable. It's a story that lingers, isn't it?
Oh, totally. It really makes you ask yourself those big questions like, what would I find in my own midnight library? And honestly, it's kind of terrifying, but also really hopeful.
Hopeful, yes. Haig reminds us that it's never too late to change, to embrace the messy, imperfect beauty of our own lives.
Exactly. And that every tiny choice can ripple out in ways we don't even realize. Like, wow, no pressure, right?
Or perhaps not pressure so much as opportunity. It's a perspective shift, really.
I like that. Opportunity. Okay, listeners, your turn. We want to know, what would your midnight library look like? What regrets or maybe alternate lives would you want to explore?
Yes, do tell us. And if you've read the book already, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of Nora's alternate lives resonated most with you?
And don't be shy about sharing what books you'd like us to cover next. Seriously, we're always looking for suggestions.
Quite. Your feedback not only fuels our discussions, but ensures we're diving into stories that truly matter to you.
And hey, if this episode inspired you to pick up the Midnight Library yourself, you can do that through the link in the description. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it helps keep this podcast going.
Indeed, and thank you in advance if you do. Your support genuinely means the world to us.
All right, Eliot, I think it's time to wrap this up. So, folks, thanks for tuning in to the Book Club Lounge.
The place where great stories meet lively discussions.
And so, until next time, subscribe, leave a comment, and keep diving into those books. There's nothing quite like it, right?
No, there most certainly isn't. On that note, we look forward to our next episode. Until then, happy reading.
Bye for now.